All right, guys, Adam Trigger here. It is Thursday. It is time for another college basketball free pick right here on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. For more college basketball free picks, make sure you check out our full court press show. It's myself, it's Brian Power, it's Rob Vino, and every morning, every weekday morning for an hour, we go through as many games on the slate as we can get to all over the board. So check that out. It's our new daily show right here on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. And also, while you're here, give us a like and maybe even a subscribe. It does help us out tremendously. Okay, we are going to talk St. Francis, TCU tonight, and we've got to talk TCU first. We've got to talk the opening night loss as a 21-point favorite to New Orleans on their home floor, and just where TCU sort of goes from that, which is it was easily the worst result for any team. Well, I think Boise State might have a claim to a worse result, but that result was actually far worse because it's against another D1 team. So that loss will hurt TCU more than Boise State losing to the non-D1 school as from a ranking standpoint. Now TCU turns around. They play another low major opponent, one of the smallest conferences in the country, the Northeast Conference, perennial 16 seed. And the interesting thing to me here is the money pouring in on TCU as if they know the result of this game. This opened 24.5. I'm seeing this as high as 29 some places. And I got to say, I disagree with that big of a move. And so my free pick for the video here is going to be St. Francis plus 29. And I will explain why. So let's go to TCU and try to make sense of that opening night loss to New Orleans. So there's a couple things. One, I do think New Orleans is much improved from last year's New Orleans team, which was essentially throwing games, had players that were kicked off the team for violations related to gambling, sports betting, match fixing, whatever you want to call it. Essentially had guys trying to actively tank while they were trying to win basketball games. So I do expect New Orleans to be much better. But then the other thing is, TCU is one of these power conference teams that's in a very unenviable spot where it's like, and I think this is like the transfer portal and NIL has probably hurt teams like TCU or these teams that are in the power conferences that just don't spend as much on college basketball or on basketball, if you will, that their other conference counterparts are spending. Now, you could say, well, the transfer portal and NIL has hurt the mid-majors most. That's actually not true because the mid-majors are now getting a lot of these good freshmen. They get the guys that maybe, it didn't work out at a couple stops. And one or two of those guys can get you competitive in a mid-major league. Whereas like a TCU, the only way they're going to compete in a league like the Big 12 is if they really get some of these transfers right. And because they don't have the budget, you start to look at this roster, and I have real concerns, which were validated by Monday night's results. So let's look at TCU's roster. They bring in a whole slew of newcomers, a couple freshmen. They only have 3 guys back from last year. Jace Posey's one of the better ones. He only played 12 minutes per game. He's probably going to play more this year. And then you're looking at David Punch, who's a starter, and Micah Robinson, who's another guy that likely gets in the mix. Aside from that, the majority of guys that are coming into this roster, Tanner Toolson, Utah Valley, so someone transferring up from a mid-major. Lilavicius from Oregon State. Oregon State in basketball might as well be a mid-major right now. That there's no more Pac-12. They're out in the WCC. They're a mid-major as well. Vianney Salachim from FIU. Again, FIU, like Conference USA, is a mid-major conference at this point. So, and then, one of your frontline guys that they're bringing in is Jaden Pierre, who for me really never lived up to expectations at Providence. And I don't know that that's like, that's your big, your two sort of big portal gets from like getting them from other sort of reputable schools would be Brock Harding, Jaden Pierre. Harding, was decent for Iowa. Pierre, I always felt underachieved for Providence. So again, it's like the point I'm trying to make here is they really are going to have to hit on like multiple like moving targets here to have a respectable team this year. It's very possible that it could be done, but it's not. There's no given. There's no guarantee that like these guys are going to mesh. They're going to gel. It's even going to work out. And then when it doesn't, you're going to see things like a TCU lose a game to a team like New Orleans. And it's not just TCU. You'll see this happen with other schools in their predicament as well. Now, what concerns me right now for TCU is not so much the loss to New Orleans. It's the fact that Vianney Salachim didn't play. Okay, he was actually the one that I was most excited about for this TCU team. 6'10" center, comes over from FIU. I got down to FIU last year, got to see him play in a game, got to sit courtside. To me, he was clear, far and away the best player on that team, the most impactful player on that FIU team. I thought this would be a sort of like a under the radar get for TCU. He doesn't play in the opener, which is concerning. I couldn't really find anything on it. I don't know how long he's out, if he's out tonight, but that's something I would absolutely want to know before betting this game. And then Malik Diallo, who is the 6'9" sophomore that presumably is going to take his minutes, gets hurt in that game against New Orleans. Probably another reason that TCU ended up losing that game. So you've got two guys that, you could be without a big here, or at least without your preferred big man. Jace Posey didn't play, as many minutes as I thought he might. And when you get down, like, let's say you take those two out of the mix. Toulson was okay, came off the bench. Like, again, there's just a lot of question marks on this TCU side. And then a couple injuries where I'm not going to lay 30 points, even against a team like St. Francis. Now, I want to talk about St. Francis for a minute. As you can see, my zip up here is from my trip to Loretto, PA last year. They were so nice to me. Shout out the people. Straight St. Francis University, Loretto, PA, were awesome to me when I was there. Had a great time. Got to catch a game at the De Gaulle Arena, which is the facility that they play in. And I actually got to go to the pregame meal for the season ticket holders, and they let the media people in there as well. And I thought it was really cool that head coach Rob Krimmel came in and basically just addressed everyone in the room and sort of like thoroughly gave an update on like every single player. I've yet to be somewhere else that's done that before the game. Like, yeah, obviously if you go into the press conference and stuff, like you can, kind of talk to the coach off the record, but I thought that was really cool. Something that Krimmel did for the supporters of the team, before a game, literally 30 minutes before the game was going to tip off. Nicest guy, and they were awesome there. And the reason I bring up Krimmel and I bring up last year's St. Francis team is, of course, the country got familiar with last year's St. Francis team when they upset Central Connecticut State, made it to the NCAA tournament, and then had that crazy play-in game to kick off the tournament against Alabama State. An awesome moment for St. Francis. And unfortunately, this will be their last year in Division I. They're going to move back to D3. I listened a little bit to about what the reasoning was, and I think they think their university sort of fits a little bit better in Division III athletics. It's a smaller school, and so that's the reasoning. So this will be their last year in D1, and I think because of that, you have, there's this like mindset that they're just going to be awful. And I don't think they're going to be as good as last year's team, but like I think the market is too far off on St. Francis. Yes, Rob Krimmel has retired, but his longtime assistant's going to be the head coach. And something from watching that team a ton last year, something I really noticed that I loved was that they weren't supposed to be great last year either, and it was always a total team effort. They never really had like one guy that was the guy. It was a team effort. They spread the ball around. Like their offense was very, very spread out and just trying to create an open shot for anyone on the floor. And last year they actually lost a couple of their better players to injuries, and it almost didn't matter. So I kind of look at this roster. It's not as good as last year's roster, in my opinion. But if Jack McConnell can get them to play similar to last year's team, then I don't see a problem with rating them closer to last year's team than where I feel like the market has them right now, which is like this bottom just option, which is where they've been priced, and where they're priced right now is a 29-point underdog. Yeah, did they lose by 36 to Oklahoma on opening night? Yes, but guess what? I don't think Oklahoma and TCU are the same thing. I think Oklahoma is far superior to TCU. So I'm going to take St. Francis plus 29 as my free pick for this game. I still think that there's a little bit of value. I think they're a little bit underrated. And I think TCU's got real concerns until they get those two bigs back in the lineup and get some things in order. I did hear this could be Jamie Dixon's last season. And who knows? Maybe he's just like on his way out and it goes off the rails. I wouldn't be surprised to see that either. But very discouraging stuff from TCU. St. Francis headed to D3, but I still think they're going to give an effort with the current team that they have. And the market has moved 5 points. 5.5 points. So plus 29, St. Francis. That's going to be your free pick for today. For all my picks, you can head on over to WagerTalk. I play more. The highest volume I'll ever play in any sport all year is college basketball. So it's a great time to take advantage of the full season special, $500 off. And you're going to get all these plays that I post well before I have time to put like a package up for sale. I've already got one locked in for tonight that I like quite a bit, and I'll probably be adding others. So check that out on my page, wt.buzz/AT. Good luck tonight, and we'll see you guys for more free picks right here on the Wager Talk YouTube channel tomorrow. Don't forget, full court press on at 10 a.m. Eastern, live with myself, Brian Power, Rob Vino. Look forward to seeing you guys in the live chat. We'll see you in the morning.